earlier, or maybe even a little after, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask that the roll be called, please.
Bergson? Harper? Here. Petrie?
Present.
Schrader? Shore? Here. Weibel? Here. Esri?
Here, and we do have a majority. Approval of agenda and addenda. Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Harper. Would like to pull item 7A3, the River to Ride Rail Band. John Hall let me know that they didn't get all their paperwork and such in yet. He says there will still be time to take care of it at the September meeting, so it's not a issue in that respect, but we don't need to mess with it tonight. Okay, all in favor of the agenda and addenda as modified?
Aye.
Please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, that passes. Moving on to approval of minutes from the ELEC committee meeting June 4th, 2015. Moved by Mr. Shore,
Second. Oh,
Se-
right.
seconded by Mr. Harper. Are there any additions or corrections to be made to those? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes too. No public for public participation. Communications. See none of those. Oh, okay, sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I and an assistant have been working this week to update the county's RRR webpage so that all of the links are current for reuse, reduce, and recycle information. Should be done by tomorrow.
Thank you. Any other communications? We're at that point. John, do you have any communications? Okay. We will then move on to items to be approved by ELUC, recreation and entertainment licenses. Number 1, CarX Crazy K, Champaign County Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, September 19th, 2015. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Petrie, seconded by Mr. Shore. Any discussion? I know it's, how many years now has this been going on? Several. I mean,
Yeah, about 3 or 4 now.
at least, yeah, that's what I was thinking, maybe about the fourth, just off the top of my head. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you, that passes unanimously. And move on to number 2, El Dorado Corporation for Mexican Rodeo, DJ, band, dancing at the Champaign County Fair Association Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, Illinois, August 29th, 2015. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Any discussion on this or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that passes unanimously as well. Just to let you know, John, we removed, pulled 3. They didn't get their paperwork in at this point, but there's still time in September to take care of it. Moving on to number 7B, the amendment to the fiscal year 2015 RPC planning contract. Is there such a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Petrie, seconded by Mr. Schrader. Discussion, comments? Susan, do you want to speak on this?
Well, I just want to point out we had careful consideration of starting a new project before ending a current one. So we just want to continue where things have left off with Wilbur Heights and try to make some more progress on that this year instead of starting at a new subdivision.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? And if not, all in favor of approving the amendment as proposed, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that passes. Thank you. Move on to line 8, items to be recommended to the county board, fiscal year 2016 county planning contract proposal, and I will make mention that we have even a more updated copy at the desk. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Harper. Seconded by Mr. Weibel. And Susan, I believe, maybe has some information on that to tell us.
Thank you. Since this was distributed last week, we've had some additional discussion about the value of keeping the general planning services request line item more flexible and adding double the hours into that item. It has been so proposed in this amendment, taking hours from essentially LRMP implementation items. So you'll notice the changes in blue were the ones made since you last received this last Thursday or Friday. We're eliminating one item that had already been reduced, item 1611, until fiscal year 17, or sooner if our general planning service requests don't come in and we still have those hours available. But essentially, eliminating that item, putting a few more hours into the task of providing a mid-course summary about where we are in the LRMP implementation process. So that has been increased so that you'll get a more robust kind of a report. And let's see, what else? Reducing the number of hours I spend looking for grant funds, which seems to fly by. So those hours will be reduced. So essentially, reducing the LRMP implementation hours and rearranging hours so that the general planning services requests hours have been doubled. So that is about the changes made since last week. Since last time you saw this in June, we wanted to add some more hours to the Wilbur Heights assistance task, anticipating that things will just not stop at the end of December this year. So we wanted to add a few more hours there. And what else? Essentially, that's it. Represents the bulk of the adjustments made based on the feedback and requests received. Oh yes, the total amount of the contract has been reduced in accordance with the request by the county administrator last June.
Thank you. Mr. Schrader?
I had two questions, but you answered one of them for me. That's Wilbur Heights. So thank you. I think that's a priority, definitely. The other one is, was there a typical error on 16-5? And that would be priority item 7.2.4B. It was stricken 5 and added 50, and was stricken 295 and 2950. Was that just a typo error, the decimal point?
No, that's another change that was made that wasn't noted perhaps in the memo, or I just didn't note just now in my summary. It's been observed and requested that we add a task to tie in the East County campus to the existing trails system adjacent to us, Weaver Park, which will be a trailhead very likely for the Urbana to Danville route. And this is a task that's been added since June so that it's consistent with the LRMP transportation policy item. It's consistent with that. And it essentially is a task to develop a plan in conjunction with the Park District to tie in and improve transportation options for the Brookins and East County campus, entire campus area, including all of the buildings.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
And since you brought it up, the rail to trail going to Danville, is the Forest Reserve still spearheading that?
I believe it's a joint effort with Urbana Park District at the helm. I may be incorrect. I'm not sure exactly who is spearheading that
And
effort.
do you know how far along they are with that? I have not heard anything.
I'd be happy to provide you an update
Okay, that'd be great.
via email. I can email all ELUC members about that.
Great. Thank you, Susan.
Mr. Harper?
Yeah, I got a question here for Susan. I don't know if this is the time or the person to ask. I sat on that rural transit deal, and of course, our last meeting, they couldn't get a quorum, so we haven't met since probably April. Were they able to get their grant money, or do you know that yet? Because at the last meeting, they were telling them to figure out a budget at 65 and 55%.
A very good question, and I don't have the answer. I would venture to say that everything's been on hold at state levels, but I'd be happy to also provide you an update and other members of ELUC once I touch bases with Rita tomorrow morning.
Right. They called me about the meeting. There wasn't a quorum, so we're probably not meeting again till September, the way they talk, so. All right, thank you.
Ms. Busey.
I do know that because of the state budget, there were some concerns of whether that would be able to continue in through MTD, and the IDOT relationships. They were able to continue services. They have received at least one additional new vehicle, and I don't believe they have yet received an answer on the 55%, 65%, because it's all tied up with the state budget issues. And I know these things because I have to sign all their documents, so I get updates on this periodically.
Thanks, Deb. Go ahead, Patsy.
First, thank you, Susan, and I hope giving more elasticity in that general planning service requests is helpful for both you and John. That was nice to see that bump up, and it prevents delays when you used to have to come to us and ask for changes in the contract. I too agree on Wilbur Heights. It is a very important focus for us, along with Dobbins Down eventually. And the item 16-5 that John asked about, what I can add to the information on this, this is something that Gary Maxwell and Tim Bartlett have been talking about, and at some point in time, Tim is going to come and give a presentation to the facility committee on some of these plans related to a trail. I think that's been put off for a couple of months due to the other things the facility committee is so deeply involved with, but that may be some of the connection with seeing it here on this contract plan. And I do know that when I had my long conversation with Tim, he indicated a willingness on the part of the Urbana Park District to put in monies toward planning on the trail. It is not as if the Park District is coming to the county for full funding to do this particular planning project. So thank you very much.
Nope. Go ahead.
Even though I just stated I'm very pleased with the contract and would normally vote yes, I will vote no because I do want it to be off the consent agenda so the whole county board has a chance.
Point of order, you just asked us to, you can vote for it and have it off the agenda.
Have someone else request it for you. However you want to do it. Ms. Busey.
You can do that tonight when you designate items to go on
That's true,
consent
too.
agenda. All you
Yeah.
have to do is say
Yeah,
it then.
we've done that, yeah. Any other comments, questions about the proposed work plan? And if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed, nay. And let's just make a note that we will not put that on the consent. We'll bring it before the whole board there. Not a problem. Okay, we will move on then to number 9, items to receive and place on file to allow for a 30-day review period. Adoption of proposed Champaign County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, HMP update. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Comments, questions? Susan, do you?
Right, if anybody prefers to read a paper copy, I can arrange for that. It's online now on our HMP webpage, the final draft. If anyone has any questions about any of the mitigation actions, I'd be happy to discuss those with you all.
Ms. Petrie?
Susan, why don't you give us all a preview of what you shared with me, things that you and John Dwyer will be focusing on in relationship to hazardous mitigation?
Right. Well, there's two sources of information about that. There's the update plan, which contains the however many, I think we have about 15 mitigation actions proposed to consider over the next 5 years. But during the 2016 year, John Dwyer has requested that we definitely get our planning team back together and try to really move in obtaining some assistance for some of these mitigation actions and just try to share ideas better than we did during the last 5-year period. And one thing that John is requesting that we look at during the fiscal year 16 is to do a needs assessment for vulnerable populations and their access to community shelter. So for unincorporated areas, we're going to be looking at that. There's mobile home parks, manufactured home parks. There may be some other vulnerable populations that have need of a community shelter, and the first step in moving that forward would be to complete the needs assessment. So we're going to be working on that beginning next year.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions for Susan or? And if not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that passes. Thank you. Move on then to monthly reports. We have the May, June, and June 2015 reports before us. Are there any questions for Mr. Hall? And if not, we will receive and place those on file. Any other business to come before the ELEC committee? I have no chair's report. Designation of items to be placed on consent agenda. Yep, we have nothing since we are going to bring the county planning contract proposal to the full board, which is not a problem. At that point then, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Ms. Petrie, seconded by Mr. Harper. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.